This is my plant animal biofauna. We have plants first. Here's my xylem. As you can see in this picture, the xylem brings things up. These things are water and dissolved minerals from the roots to the rest of the plant. Only goes up. Without this, the plant would die because it couldn't do its functions. And if you can't do your functions, you're pretty much dead. Up next, we got phloem. Phloem brings food and water down from the leaves, and these food is sugar. As you can see in this next slide, sugar is made from photosynthesis, and the sugars turn into ATP, and ATP is NRG. Now we got taproot next. A taproot is a large central root with other roots coming off of it. It'd be like a carrot is a close example. Absorbs water and mineral, just like everything else, it seems like. Those then go up the xylem, because things only go up the xylem. Fibrous root. Forms from many roots coming down from the stem. Here's an example. Once again, nutrients and water. Aerial roots. Roots above the ground. They act as an anchor, like for plants. And then we have adventitious roots from non-typical structures. They're the type of aerial root, as we'll see right up here. They're like fibrous root and they're like aerial root because they're above the ground and they are stringy. And then they also bring water and nutrients. Next we have stems. First thing we're going to look at is heartwood. This is important because it helps with bug decay and diseases, so it doesn't die, as you can see by my skull. Our next thing is the vascular bundle. It's strands of vasculars in the stems. Vessels, not vascular, sorry. As you can see, it's in the xylem and the phloem, so that it helps with water transplant. Our next thing is sapwood. It transports water and minerals. There you go. Via the xylem and phloem. And here's a little sapwood thing. As you can see by the reference to bark. Okay, so bark keeps in water and disease out. So it keeps the plant alive. Our next thing is cactus stems. So it stores water. And then our first look at evolution here. Where they live, there isn't a lot of water. So basically, waste not, want not. So it developed to store water. Rhizosome. See my drawing. A plant stem that is underground. Yeah. Juts out to make roots, as you can see in my drawing back there. Bulb, it's like, flower bulbs. Underground fleshy sacs that contain plants' life, like flower bulbs, as you can see here. So now we have corm, not to be confused with corn. It's a fleshy underground food storage, kind of like a bulb, as you can see here. Stallone. Stallone is a horizontal runner that brings nutrients through organisms and like communication. So now we got our leaves. Our first thing we're going to look at is photosynthesis. And if you don't know what photosynthesis is, it's how plants get food, like the time they make their sugar. It's with water, CO2, and sunlight into the chloroplast. Transpiration is water loss, basically pee. Gets out extra water through the leaves. Our next thing is the epidermis. It's a protective layer, keeps plant cells from getting waterlogged. Yeah. As you can see in this picture, that's why it rolls up like that. That's the epidermis right there. Our next thing is palisade mesophyll. Absorbs light for photosynthesis. Without this, no photosynthesis. Then we have the spongy mesophyll, and that helps in gas exchange with the CO2 and photosynthesis, as you probably can figure out. Vein. The vein is there for structural and transpiration, like for minerals and water. Reproduction. What we look at in reproduction is the sepal. It's a defensive organ, and it protects the developing structures. The petals. The petals don't really do anything, but they attract pollinators like bees, and they are for protection. Sorry about that. We have the stamen. So what the stamen does is it supports the anther, and you'll find out what the anther does real quick. The anther, it's the part of the stamen where the pollen is produced, so it's pretty important. The filament carries nutrients to anther, and we all know what the anther does. The stigma, it's a part of the female plant that collects the pollen. Next we have the style, and the style is important because it supports the stigma, as you can see here. We have our stamen, and we have our diagram, which is beautiful. Now, next we have the ovary. Just like in mammal names, it has ovules, which turns into seed, and then the ovary turns into fruit. Pollination's like the fertilization for us. They need a third-party contributor, bees, and then they make fruit, and then that prevents the seeds from drying out. So we're going to do some invertebrates. First we have the Porphyra. These are just sea sponges. They don't move. They're kind of just rocks, no nervous system. They're particle feeders, and it means porous. Our next thing we're looking at is Cyndraera. They are jellyfish, particle feeders, no brain still, symmetrical, two-way digestion. Sorry, that's a typo. Asexual, and osmosis is how they breathe. Platyhelminthes, two-way digestion, no anus, no nervous system, no circulatory system, just a muscular little worm, as we can see in this diagram coming up. See, the mouth also acts as an anus, which is kind of gross, but just the way it is. Our nematoda, everything before had two-way digestion. This has a one-way, which means anus and mouth, which is pretty cool. They're hookworms, sexual and asexual. Our next thing are arthropods. They are insect exoskeleton, segmented body. They're the first one to have lungs. That's evolution, baby. Sexual reproduction. Here are some flattering pictures of them coming up. See, there's crustaceans, many insects. Our next thing are the mollusks. They have bilateral symmetry. They have gills, which is cool. Nervous system. They have it all. They're snails, clams, like octopus and things like that, as you can see coming up right about now. Octopus, snails, squids, clams, slugs, annelids. So they have nervous system, segmented, they no support, so they're just not an endoauroch, so they don't have anything. Osmosis, no lungs, and a one-way digestion. Echinoderms, these are starfish. We're kind of going back in time here. These kind of suck. Kind of like our sea sponges. They don't really do anything, but they're a little bit more advanced. Alright, for fish. So first we got the Agnatha. These are jawless fish, hagfish, lamprey, no scales, paired fins, eel-like, just your first fish. Slick gills, by the way, just like our sharks right here. These are the carnivorous fish. They have jaws, live birth, so no eggs. Well, eggs are inside. Sharks raising skates. Our next thing are bony fish. These have covered gills, as you can see in that demonstration. They have lungs, they have bones, and they're streamlined. These are like our fish, like the perch we dissected in the drum. This is what we have. So for amphibians, we have the aura. That means tailless. So they lay eggs in like a jelly coating, which helps. These are frogs and toads. Yeah. These guys are pretty weird. They kind of look like snakes, but they're not because they're amphibians. So they don't have any legs, and they're 12 inches long. And then for our last guys, these are our salamanders. They lay eggs in water. They can be pretty long, and they have tails. For our reptiles, we are going to start out with... Okay, so for our evolution, we have basically the difference between us... amphibian and reptiles. A reptile doesn't need water. Like, they can live without it. And that's a low evolution. So our first one is Archinana. These are turtles. They have shells. There's 250 species of them. And they don't have any teeth. Our next guys are crocodilus. Crocodiles, alligators, 21 species. A lot of teeth. Cold-blooded, legs, and that legs are something that these guys coming up don't have. Squamata, these are snakes, 5,000 species, a lot of them. No legs, teeth, and their left lung is smaller than the right lung, because that's just the way they move. So for birds, we have the amniotic egg, which helps with no water loss. They can lay it wherever, like in evolution from amphibians. Less wear and tear on the egg and less infection, which is huge. Or pigeon, so they need to eat rocks so they can digest everything. It has a gizzard, crop, and cloaca. Cloaca is like a one-way stop anus, and a gizzard and crop help in food production. So for mammals, there's 3 different types of mammals. We have our placenta mammals, which means we come out of our moms, and go from there. Then we have marsupials. Those are pretty cool because they go out like they're born, I guess one could say, and then they go into their mom's sack until they're old enough. And then for our last type, we have egg layers. These are like platypus. They are laid in eggs, which is extremely cool because most mammals don't do that because of evolution. All right, thank you.